Hello everyone, back out on the water again in my little yellow kayak. Pretty calm start, but I can see the north wind is picking up. I'm going to run into it pretty soon. It's actually blowing kind of all over the place, west and the northwest and the north and then back to west again. Not a lot of clouds in the skies, it's still pretty early. But since I have that wind, I wanted to fish with a bait that I haven't had a chance to fish with lately because really hasn't been a lot of wind. And that bait is called the Reaction Innovation Skinny Dipper. It's a great bait. It's been around since 2007. I had to look that up, but it's been around for a long time. And the way I used to fish it was on a weighted swim bait hook. I think that's the way most people fish it. But I saw a video by the Hookup Tackle on how to rig it weightless. And it kind of piqued my interest, and I tried it, and I really liked it. So here's the bait. There's not much to it. They put a bunch of soft plastic swim baits in a bag. Some of the tails get crooked, but it doesn't seem to matter. So the reason this setup works so well is one, that the Reaction Innovation Skinny Dipper is heavy. It's about a ½ ounce on my scale on its own. There's been some various knockoffs of the Skinny Dipper since 2007, but they don't weigh as much. And that weight is key for getting this to work well on bait casting gear, because you can really launch it pretty far because it weighs a lot. And the way you retrieve it is fast. So the bait is running, about an inch or two underneath the surface of the water, and I rig it just the way the Hookup Tackle suggested, with a 4/0 owner twist lock hook and a number 4 treble. I think they suggested to use a red treble. I've just about worn the red paint off of the treble, and I'm still catching fish just the same. So I don't know if the red treble really does anything, but maybe it gives the fish a target to aim for. Anyway, I would catch a lot of fish with this rig, which is great, but about every 10th or 20th fish, I found myself losing fish and losing that red treble along with the fish. And that's something that I just didn't like. I didn't like leaving treble hooks and fish. I didn't like losing fish. So I had to come up with a way to, kind of have a rigging 2.0 system. And you could think about using some surgical tubing to keep that red treble hook in place, or any other color treble hook, or maybe some wire. What I settled on was fluorocarbon. For one, I had a lot of it laying around. I tried different pound tests, and I settled on 20 pound. That seemed to be heavy enough to prevent break-offs, but not so thick that it would mess up the action of the Skinny Dipper. And it worked great. So the treble hook never comes off anymore, and that's important for fish that are jumping. Somehow they get the eye of the treble hook off of the main hook and can get free. Maybe if the fish that you're catching aren't jumping a lot or going crazy, maybe if the water's a little colder, it won't be an issue, but it happened to me a couple times and I had to do something different. So while I'm rigging up a Skinny Dipper, I'll tell you a little bit more about the bait. It does really well with pickerel and other toothy critters, and they seem to get the rear treble, which helps prevent break-offs. You really don't need to set the hook with this rig. The fish pretty much set themselves. Either they get the top hook of the owner twist lock or they get the treble. And you can cover a ton of water with it. So even though it's weightless, it casts very far and you're retrieving it quickly. And I do the best probably in early summer and then again in fall with this bait. And all you do is cast it out and wind it in. I'm not pausing it. I'm not doing any twitches. I just cast it out and reel it in. And it runs over the tops of weeds pretty well. It doesn't come through thick stuff well at all. You got to switch to a single hook for that. It doesn't come through wood or anything like that well. But what it's great for is covering a lot of water fast. And you can use this as your primary bait or as a search bait. And that's what I'm doing here. I'm over a kind of a deep weed flat. I don't know where the fish are. I'm hoping there's a few in this weed flat. And I'm just fan casting around till one of them eats it. Which is right there. It's sort of like a fluke bite, a super fluke bite, because the lure is only running an inch or two below the surface of the water. They tend to either swirl on it or blast it out of the water. So it's a fun way to fish. It's almost like top water. Not quite, but almost. And sometimes they'll just blow it right out of the water. But most of the time, they get one of those hooks. So the hookup ratio is very good. And the fish usually end up coming to the boat. Every once in a while, one of them gets it kind of deep. So if they're really fired up, I might fish a single hook bait. But for the most part, clean releases, good hookup ratio, and every fish you hook is pretty much coming to the boat. Okay, I'm going to show you guys a close-up of the rigging. So first thing you need is some 20-pound leader material of fluorocarbon. That happens to be Daiwa J Fluoro. You can use whatever fluoro you like. And I'm going to tie that on with a simple clinch knot. Spin it around a bunch of times, 6-7 times. Pass the tag end through the loop at the bottom. I'm getting that hook caught in my gloves. It's giving me a little trouble, but I'll get there. Wet it, set it, and done. Now that simple clinch knot's not a very good knot, but I like it for two reasons. One, it doesn't tend to burn the heavier fluorocarbon. And the other is I do a little better getting the right length with a simple clinch knot than some other knots like a polymer knot or whatever your favorite knot is. It's easier for me to get that length right. But I will say up front that I always have to do it twice. No matter where I start out, I always have to do it twice. And I've just accepted that. That's part of the process for me. I always make the first go round a little long. So I'm tying another simple clinch knot to the hook. We'll pull that tight. And what I've made is kind of a stinger hook for a swim bait. But yeah, like I said, I always make it too long to start. So you can cut the end at the hook or the end at the treble, whichever is easiest. I'm going to trim that tag. And then I'm going to redo the treble end to try to get that length just right. I want about 2.5, 3 inches. Just enough line to get over the hook of the owner twist lock. So here we go. We're tying another clinch knot. It's not much line to work with, which also is a reason why I'm using the simple clinch knot. You don't really need a lot of line for that knot. And because there's so little line and the hooks are so close together, they're kind of fighting me. But that's all right. Just takes me a little time to get that twist lock keeper out of the way and to get enough wraps to get that length just right. But eventually I get that tag end through the loop, wet it, pull it tight, make sure it's going to clear the hook, trim the tag end. You want one of those tines on the treble sticking up so it can stick into the belly of the skinny dipper. You put the centering pin in the center, spin it on nice and straight. You line up where that 4-aught hook is going to come out so it's straight. Put your thumbnail where you want that hook to run up. And you run right through the middle of the spine of the bait. Stick the treble in the belly. And you're almost done. I like to add a little bit of super glue on those clinch knots because, again, they're not very good knots. And they tend to slip out. So with that super glue, it just prevents that knot from ever slipping out. Give that a couple minutes to dry. And you're set. I'll list all the components in the video description. Thanks for watching. See ya!